I'm Waxela Sananda. Thank you for joining me. I am answering some questions that I receive as comments on these YouTube videos that I put out. And then also when people respond to my newsletter, sometimes there will be questions there that I am willing and open to answering. And so that's what today is. This is one that I've sort of been putting off. It's about psychic attacks. And, there's just never a fun or perfect time, I feel like, to talk about psychic attacks. So today when I tuned in, I always, before I do one of these videos, I'll tune in, kind of ask myself, ask my connection, ask the divine, how can I serve in the highest way today? What's the topic? What is it that is most needed right now? And today I got a memory of this question that had been asked on one of my previous videos. And it's from MC's Play at Ease. The question is, and I shortened it just to make it clear, how to process the trauma of psychic attacks. They come at an open and vulnerable time, and then it can be hard to trust to open up at that high level again. Many teachers hold what seem to be contradictory beliefs. Some say we are 100% responsible for the reality we are projecting from within, and then the psychic attack seems more like an autoimmune disease. Others are aware of darker forces at play aiming to take us down. How might we approach these experiences? First of all, thank you, MC, for this question. I think this is a great question. I think it will serve a lot of people because lots of people experience psychic attacks, myself included, especially when I was young, when I was a child, and in my early adulthood before I understood how to control it and how to raise my frequency. So this is a great time for me to share about what a psychic attack is. And so you can decide, or discern whether or not you might be experiencing it in your own life. And then also it's an opportunity to share how to protect yourself from psychic attacks, how to raise your frequency, and how to overcome the experience of psychic attacks. And because of this, as I was going through and thinking about, what I want to address in this conversation, I realized there's so much more than what I can fit into one of these videos that I am going to do a masterclass on this. The masterclass is going to be held on July 6th, 2022. So if you're on my email list, you'll get an invitation to that. If you're not on my email list, just get on my email list. That's the best way. And if you go to the show notes, that's how you'll figure out how to get on my email list. If you're not there yet, that's where I share all this great stuff with you. You get a lot of great content from being on my list. So I encourage you to do that. So for starters, let's talk about what is a psychic attack. A psychic attack is, I actually wrote down my thoughts on this, so I'm going to read what I wrote. An intention to harm another via thoughts, spells, curses, rituals, or other non-physical modalities. This can affect the recipient in energetic, emotional, and even physical ways. They can come from other people, religions, cults, negatively oriented ETs, non-physical entities, governments, TV, radio, Wi-Fi, and cellular broadcasts. These are just some of the ways that psychic attacks can happen. Now, why? Why would anyone want to do a psychic attack on someone else or anyone or anything? Some of those reasons include a revenge or a vendetta against somebody, jealousy, envy. It could be in your bloodline. You might have a lineage curse. I know that sounds scary, but what that is when your bloodline is, we can think of a curse as carrying a negative frequency that's volatile to attack. So when you come from a lineage that maybe another race of beings thinks that it has a right to your lineage, your gene line, your DNA, it might practice psychic attack in order to gain control. It's the desire to control another person's body or another person, to have them do things or act in certain ways or think in certain ways, behave in certain ways that are deemed as beneficial to the parasitic attacker, which would be the one doing the psychic attack. And this can also be a desire to consume energy. So sometimes an entity will attack someone in order to cause a reaction that they can actually feed off of the energy of fear. It's called loosh, that comes from people that are in fear. And so on a global scale, you can see how there is a fear broadcast going on all the time on our televisions. This is why I'm always saying, turn off those TVs. No, it's coming through the televisions. It comes through the radios. It comes through the Wi-Fi. It's coming through our computers. Many, many different ways that these things are broadcast. They're broadcasts. They're frequency broadcasts, whether they are combined with words, such as on the television, or whether they're broadcast through the air as an actual frequency. Psychic attacks can come through just the airwaves. And this is something that a lot of people, I think, aren't aware of. Like when you start to feel, and I like to say, slimed by something, getting slimed in Ghostbusters, if you remember that movie, you can get slimed by these frequencies that are out there. And especially if you're empathic, and many people who are open spiritually, we're opening up those empathic channels. So we want to be careful about what we're letting in. And inevitably, it doesn't mean you're doing anything wrong or you're a bad person or something's wrong with you. If you're experiencing some sort of psychic attack, it just means that there are some channels that are open that get to be cleared, and some boundaries that get to be set, and then some frequencies that get to be upgraded within yourself so that you're no longer a victim to these frequencies that are out there. So now we get to the good part. I hope that hasn't scared you. You know, this is just part of life on Earth. It's part of being human. We are vulnerable. We're vulnerable beings. If you think about the human body, the human psyche, the human emotions, the human energy field, we're not designed to be predators. We are a squishy, soft-skinned. We don't have claws or talons. We don't have an exoskeleton to protect us. We don't have the ability to run at high speeds. We're really pretty defenseless. We don't have venom. We don't have any of the things that nature has to protect itself from its predators. But what we do have is minds. We have the ability of our minds, and if we're very evolved and evolving, the ability of our hearts to protect us from these lower energetic or parasitic attacks that happen. Here is what we can do about psychic attack. There's so many ways to overcome. This is why I decided I'm doing a masterclass on this, because there's a lot more than I'll even be able to address here. And each one of these things that I share about right now has a whole other deeper level that we can get into and dig into. So for starters, raising your frequency can be a double-edged sword. What do I mean by that? Well, as we raise our frequency and do ascension work, ideally, ascension work is the thing that's going to get us beyond any kind of parasitic attack, any kind of psychic attack. But in the meantime, as we're growing and expanding, it's quite common we start by opening ourselves, opening our hearts, opening our consciousness, opening our, like these levels of our being that must be open in order to grow spiritually. However, if we don't have the right protections in place, opening up can also make us feel more vulnerable and have us experiencing things on a more personal level, and it can make us feel kind of raw. So just to be aware that as you're opening up spiritually, you're going to be releasing layers and layers of density, clearing those layers of density, which actually feels really good. When you're clearing, you feel like a brand new baby in some ways. However, you also feel more sensitive to everything going on around you. So, for instance, maybe Wi-Fi, the frequency of Wi-Fi never bothered you before. Maybe you never noticed it. And then you started doing spiritual work, ascension work, and suddenly you're hearing, this happens to me. I hear the frequency of the Wi-Fi. I unplug it every night. I only plug it in when I need it. I unplug it every night while I'm sleeping. If I forget, or if my son forgets, oftentimes he's up later than I am. If he forgets, I will wake up in the night and I will hear this high pitched sound. And it's almost, I can think of it as a sound. It occurs like it's a sound, but it's actually not even a sound as much as it is a frequency that I become aware of. So I hear, I'm tuned in enough to know that that frequency is on, and I will get up and unplug it. So in the same way, you become more aware of more frequencies. So you might feel inundated, and you might feel like, oh, I feel psychically attacked, even when there's no obvious thing happening that that would cause that. You might just be becoming more sensitive. So I wanted to start with that, just so you know, if you are having a spiritual awakening, if you are releasing layers of density, if you are going through some sort of transformation, it's normal to feel more sensitive and a little bit raw emotionally. So give yourself space to feel that. That's just a process that you get to go through as you're clearing and expanding. Another thing that happens is as we're raising our frequency, if you have been carrying some lower frequency energies or entities within yourself, within your being, which is very, very common, and nearly everyone has some lower frequency energy density in their body. You can think of it as an entity. You can think of it as an energetic. It doesn't need to be scary. They're frequencies, and frequencies can be overcome with frequencies. Lower frequencies can be overcome with higher frequencies. So this isn't something to freak you out or scare you, but it is very common as you start to raise your frequency, these lower density energies or entities will be agitated, and they'll start to, because they're feeling like, oh my gosh, my home is in upheaval. I've been lodged in this person's, we'll say, intestine for, decades. And now suddenly I'm feeling like the frequency's raising and I'm not comfortable. It's like the home's being renovated and they don't like the new paint colors, to make it simple. So they're going to be a little agitated. If you've been carrying things around that you haven't addressed, you might feel some anger. If your liver is holding some old energies, you might start to feel that release, as just like when we do a detox, we detox the liver physically, we're going to start to feel agitation. We're going to start to feel some anger, some rage, even if we're doing a deep clearing. And if we've had some density stored there, some toxins stored there, the same is true. We're cleansing, we're purging ourselves from denser, lower density frequency beings, entities, and experiences. So as we do that, those things are going to need to come out. So as you're doing this process, and this process meaning your awakening, your ascension work, doing any of these practices that I share with you in these ascension videos that I put out every Tuesday, as you're doing that, if you're new to it, or if you've been doing it a long time, you're going to be reaching parts of yourself, deeper and deeper parts that might need to clear. And as you clear, you're going to have agitation. So I encourage you to let these things out in a safe way that is not going to be harmful to somebody else. So what I mean by that is you do need to let them out. It's very important to release whatever needs to come out, but don't take it out on your spouse or your friends or family members or children or parents. You want to do this in a high frequency way, in a responsible way. So that might mean going out in nature and just yelling into a pillow, or taking a kickboxing class, somewhere where it's appropriate to vent and move energy. Of course, you can do this with an energy work practitioner. However, you don't have to have a practitioner to help you purge this. And I want you to be able to do this on your own and get good at it and not judge it as it's coming up. Recognize it. Hey, I feel a frequency that's uncomfortable. So you can recognize it, tune into it, and then start to clear it. My book, The Love You Crave, a course in Ascension, Alchemy, and Connection to the Divine, has processes for this. It's $5.99 on Kindle if you want to get it, and go through those processes. It goes very deeply into how to clear these energies from the body. So that's one thing that I want you to be aware of. As you raise your frequency, things are going to come up. They might feel agitated. You might feel raw. Let them out. Let yourself release, clear, recover, repair, and then you'll come back to center in a higher place. If you hold it in, suppress it, judge yourself for not being good because you have anger coming up, then that's more suppression, and that is not going to help you clear, and that's not going to help you raise your frequency, because you're still going to be holding the density that's been keeping you at the frequency that you're currently at. It's a meditation actually that I put out called Releasing Thoughts from the Body. It is specifically for clearing density from the body, even clearing entities, clearing these lower frequency energies. It is exactly designed for this purpose. So I am going to gift you that for listening to this, and you can find the link to that in my show notes today. That's a private video that's normally just given away. I do give it away when someone purchases my book, but if you are not in a space to purchase the book, that's okay. I'm going to give you that for free in the show notes today, because I feel like it's time for all of us, for all of humanity, to do a massive clearing of lower frequencies, especially as we're bombarded with frequencies all the time. Let's have a tool to clear them out. This meditation is specifically for that. Look in my show notes and you're going to get that for free. So as you release these lower frequency energies, you're going to feel better. You're going to be able to feel your own energy more and more, and you're going to be less available and less attractive to those lower frequency energies, because the higher frequency you are, the higher you raise your light, your ability to hold light, the less lower densities are going to be able to attach to you. And the caveat to that, though, is there will be other densities, other frequency beings that will be attracted to you because they are drawn to your light. So again, it's important to have other ways to protect yourself as you're ascending your frequency. Be aware you're not out of the woods yet when it comes to psychic attack, because other things can leech onto you, and you want to be aware of them. The awareness brings all of the clarity, because when you're aware that they're there, you can work with them. If you're not aware that they're there, you don't know what you don't know. So I want you to bring awareness to the possibility of, maybe I need a clearing, and there's nothing wrong with that. And as you become lighter, like a moths are attracted to the light. And sometimes those moths just want to take some of your light. That doesn't mean they're bad. They're just doing what they know how to do, but they want some of your light, so they will attach to you. And that can be something that you need to let go of and help yourself clear. Moving forward, things that will help you clear and hold a higher frequency as you build your confidence. You're going to be doing ascension work. I highly encourage you to have some sort of practice. So whether that's, doing the practices that I encourage you to do throughout these videos, or if you have a mentor, if you're in coursework such as, a shameless self-plug here, Embodied Ascension, which is the signature course, 6-month course course that I teach. It's very, very powerful to be in a frequency container with a mentor and other people who are going through the work so that you can practice holding, raising your frequency and holding it, raising your frequency and holding it, raising your frequency and holding it. The more you raise your frequency, the more able you are to hold that higher level of light in your body, embody it, then you're creating a field around you of higher and higher light. At some point, my experience personally has been that the more I raise my frequency, the less vulnerable I am to psychic attack. And even now, if something comes around in the night, which occasionally happens, and wants to psychically attack me, I can just laugh at it because I have so many tools. I'm aligned with Central Sun, and you can be too, but there's absolutely nothing in my consciousness that goes to fear anymore. But for many, many, many years of my life, I did go to fear. And so if you're going there, I'm not judging you, and please don't judge yourself. Again, it's important to just bring awareness and then have practices. So here's a wonderful practice that I learned many years ago from a beautiful woman named Cynthia Crawford. She is not the supermodel, a different Cynthia Crawford. She's deceased now. I had a series of phone conversations with her, and she sculpted these ET beings. She was a hybrid. She was in conscious communication with many ET races, and then she would sculpt them in clay. I was going through psychic attack at that time. I was experiencing some very scary things in the night, always at night when I was sleeping. And she walked me through a process, very, very simple process. Here's what it is. You practice projecting love to everything that shows up. And you must practice this during the daytime if you're having these experiences at night. You can't just go from fear to love. There's a gap there, right? Fear's over here. It's fight and flight. Adrenaline gets released. Once you're in that fight and flight reaction, there's no love flowing. Adrenaline, it's upset, it's fear. Okay. We want to avoid going there. We want to go straight to love. And so when something shows up at night and you project love to it, if it is of the frequency of love, it will receive that love and project it back to you, and you'll have a lovely interaction, right? If it is not of love, it's going to be uncomfortable in the presence of love. It's not expecting you to love it or go into a love vibration. It's expecting you to go into fear. And that's probably why it's there, because it wants to consume that fear energy. So if you go into love, it's going to be like, oh, there's nothing to consume here, no dinner. So I'm going to go off to the next place. And that's just the regular case scenario. Highest case scenario is maybe that being is on the verge of wanting to experience love for itself. So if you project love, you might actually reach it. It is possible to reach these entities in a way that cracks open their heart, or even just puts a little crack. I'm like, whoa, what's that? Like, maybe there's more than darkness for me. And I do believe that all of these entities that feed off of darkness or in the darkness will eventually crack open and come around to the light. They're just in a really different place than in the light at this time. And so if you're evolved enough to be able to send frequencies, you're not trying to fix them. In this case, your job is not to change them, fix them, or control them. They're trying to control you. If you try and control them, you're going to kind of butt heads, and they might get more of what they want, which is your energy. So all you're doing is projecting love with absolutely no desire to do anything other than project love. It's very pure, unconditional. If they're able to receive that love, beautiful. You could change a being's and entity's whole frequency by doing this. However, what usually happens is that they just go away. They're uncomfortable. They don't like the feeling of love because they're not familiar with it, and it's not what they're there for. So if they're just not ready for that, not ready to receive that, they will just leave. And I've had that experience many times. So the thing is, it's very difficult to go, like I said, from fear to love. If you're having something show up in the night and it's scaring you and you go into fear, then that's not going to work. What you can do is practice this in your daily waking hours, while you're awake, practice projecting love to whatever shows up. Maybe someone cuts you off in traffic. Project love. Maybe somebody in the grocery store gives you an evil eye look, a nasty look or something. Maybe they're having a bad day. Just project love. Smile and project love. You don't need to say anything. Just practice from your heart, just projecting love. It happens all the time when we're out and about or even online. Trolls, somebody will say something negative. Just project love. You don't even have to respond with words. In fact, it's probably better if you don't. Just project love. Don't engage with that darkness. Just let it go. Project love. That is going to help you learn to do this at night when you have something show up. If you're in a habit of projecting love to whatever shows up, then something shows up in the night. At some point, you're going to get there where you can project love, and that thing is going to either leave or transform. Or if it's a being of love, it will give you that love back, and it'll feel really great. I've personally done this. I learned this experience after I talked to Cynthia and I started my own practice. Of course, the first thing I found out is I get really freaked out when things show up. So I wasn't able to do it right away. The more I practiced, the better I got at it. And then one night when I was sleeping, something showed up. I projected love and it just vanished and it never happened again. That's not true. It did happen again. My experience of it was never fear again. So I never went into fear again. I changed. I never went into fear again when something showed up. And the negative things that used to come and quote unquote haunt me when I was sleeping, that while it does occasionally still happen that something will show up that's lower frequency while I'm sleeping, it happens 1/100th of the time that it used to before I learned this process. That's how valuable it is. Like just the frequency of learning this process raised my frequency to the point where I wasn't even attracted to those lower frequency beings anymore. So it's worth it to do this. To try the process, see what happens. Let me know, tell me in the comments, maybe you've already been practicing because I've shared this many times before. You might have been practicing. You might have had the experience of having something dissolve right in front of your eyes. It's very empowering. So as you do more ascension work, you get empowered in your frequency. You get empowered and you know that you are of the light and you know that you can call on the light and then it will always be with you. And also in this situation, love and light are synonymous in frequency. The frequency of love, the frequency of divine love light, this is what we're calling on. And so also you can call on your guides, you can call on the angels and archangels for support. You can call on your own higher self to come and support you whenever you're feeling a frequency upset by some other being or entity. You can call on Archangel Michael with his blue light sword to come and sever and cut any ties that you might have to in your lineage. Here's something that I teach as well is cord cutting and cutting your attachment across all time to make dimension, space, and reality with other beings, with other lower frequency vibrations that will land or feel like a psychic attack to you. So you can cut cords with that. You can, I do shamanic sessions. You could book a session with me or someone else who does that, but you can also learn to do this on your own. And that's also in my book, but you can learn to cut cords. I'll teach this in the masterclass so that you can get a sense of how to do it for yourself so you don't have to hire a practitioner. And this will be so powerful energetically. You can also cut cords with people, places, events, institutions, anything in your life that you feel bonded to, but that's an unhealthy bond. You can cut those cords and be free and liberated energetically and physically and emotionally from anything really that is bringing you down. There are also physical items that you can have around you that can be very helpful in protecting your energy. I have very strong connection to my higher self, my guidance, my light team, but I still like to have my physical things around me that I feel support my energy, just because that takes some of the pressure off of me personally to be constantly maintaining myself energetically. And I'm working with a lot of people, and I'm working with a lot of frequencies, and I'm working with a lot of dimensions. So it just feels good to me to have these things around. Of course, people have lots of crystals around. Crystals are great as long as you are clearing them. Crystals absorb energy as well as put out energy. So you want to make sure that if they're absorbing negative energy, you must clear them. And there are lots of ways to do that. Look up ways to clear my crystals. There's so many ways. I'm not even going to get into it. That's another video, but you can clear them regularly to keep them from getting slimed and holding negative energies, because they're not doing you any good if your crystals are holding negative energies. So I have one of these. This is called the Heart Companion Pendant from Metaforms. I am an affiliate with them because I love the product so much. I wear it. If you want one, I will put I have my coupon code that I'm going to put in the show notes, and a link, my affiliate link, and you use that code to get, I think it's 15% off. So if you're interested in one, you could read about it. I'll link to it from Metaforms. You can get them in different finishes, different stones. It's really pretty and it feels really good. So that's something you can get. Another thing that I'm absolutely in love with is the photon light balls. This is one of the photon light balls. I do a session. If you've seen my sessions with Gary Kiss, he's the CEO of the company that makes these. And so this is one of the photon light balls that it only puts out energy. This does not absorb energy, but it clears energy. So I have this around me. I sleep with it in the bed. It's the coolest thing. But that's for another video. That's something that I personally have around me and use all the time. I also work with Gary. I also have an affiliate code where you can get a little discount. So I will put that in the show notes. Those are just some of the things. Now, there are a multitude of products out there that can help support you energetically. These are just two. I mean, I have others around my home. So I do have lots of things around that I feel good about. There are more out there that I'm not even aware of course, but those are things that you can do to help you maintain and hold your energy level and not be vulnerable to psychic attack. I will say, since I got my photon light balls, I have not had any psychic attacks at night whatsoever at all. And, not that they bother me when they do happen, but how nice not to have to deal with that. And I'm not guaranteeing that that's what's going to happen for you, but that's been my personal experience. So that has been really nice. So this is my like grand finale, my huge, powerful thing that I use, that I call on whenever I feel not just psychically attacked, but whenever I feel any kind of upset or vulnerability or fear vibes coming from anyone, anywhere, I call on Central Sun. And if you know my work, you know I work with Central Sun a lot. I sun gaze, I absorb sun, I work with the sun. Light codes are coming to us all the time from Central Sun through our solar system sun. And so I work to embody the frequencies of Central Sun in my human embodiment. And so when something comes up that upsets me or causes me fear, I call on Central Sun. I actually go straight into my solar plexus, which is your navel center. And I see like a ball of light that is, you can think of like a sun, in my solar plexus. And I allow that I just get in touch with it. I feel the warmth of it. I let it expand out and out and out. And I feel the frequency of it. And it feels amazing. And then I call on the energy of Central Sun to clear my field, to protect me. I step into my Merkaba vehicle, which is my light body vehicle. And I just expand in that light. So you can have your own practice of this. I will go more deeply into that in the class coming up, but that is something that you can always call on. It's always available. It's always there for you, central sun and the light frequencies and light codes of the sun. Other ways that you can hold high frequency are just simply good thoughts, good living, consuming foods that are healthy and good for you, high frequency foods, high energy foods, living a fairly clean lifestyle. Sorry to tell you, but drugs will open you up to vulnerability to potential psychic attack. So be aware of that. If you're using any kind of recreational drugs, pharmaceuticals even can have this effect. You want to be aware of that. You might be opening your auric field to vulnerability. So I highly encourage eliminating all recreational drugs and minimizing any pharmaceuticals that you can. I personally take 0 pharmaceuticals. When I do consume a substance that might be a plant medicine for personal growth, I do that only in ceremony, only with a shamanic practitioner. I'm talking about if this is like an ayahuasca ceremony or some other type of plant medicine ceremony. I don't discourage that. However, make sure you're doing it the proper way with a guide, a shaman, with someone who's experienced, someone who can hold and guard and protect you energetically, and be prepared emotionally. Do it with intention, do it with consciousness, do it with your awareness, be open-minded, and open-hearted, and go into communion with that frequency and the light frequency of what you're working with, the plant medicine or whatever it might be. So you want to go into frequency alignment with the highest aspect of that first in order to have an experience. If it's recreational, oftentimes it will lower your frequency. And I think the reason for this is most people that are doing this recreationally, it's the way that you're consuming it. When you do it as ceremony, you're going to have a much more profound experience. And I'm not against sacred ceremonies of any kind of plant medicine. What I am against is mindless recreational usage, because I've seen what that does to a person's body and energy and emotions. It can have a really detrimental effect. The same is even true with alcohol. There's absolutely a way to misuse and abuse alcohol. We've all seen that. Many of us have done it. And then there's a way to take it in a sacred way. If you're having a glass of wine, I mean, is it really necessary to do that every day? I mean, probably not, but you get to choose. If you are choosing to do that on a regular basis, then do it in sacredness. You know, if you can get something made in a beautiful, loving vineyard where the owners of the vineyard are, it's not just mass produced. This is for anything that you're consuming. Look for purity, look for intention, look for love. If you want to have a glass of wine in sacred ceremony, I mean, I do this, I will pray with it, feel it, feel the loving energy of the people that created it, the grapes, the spirit that it is in and with. It can be a beautiful thing. It can be very uplifting, but that's a very different thing than just chugging glasses of wine because you want to detach from your life. That's a very different thing than having a sacred ceremony with anything that you consume. So I'm using drugs and wine and alcohol as an example. There's a negative way to do it. There is a way to do it for personal expansion. This is true of anything. This is true of the food you eat. This is true of really anything that you take into your body energetically. Even sex, you know, can be done in a way that is detrimental, that's just like fulfilling lust, or it can be done in the most sacred ceremony that is so expansive and unifying and connecting with your partner and the divine. So anything that there is that can change our state can really be done with complete lack of attention or complete presence of intention. And therefore, the experiences of those things can be really diverse. So my final thoughts on this subject are: be intentional with your life, be intentional with your frequencies, be aware and conscious of what's around you, what's surrounding you. Be aware of your boundaries. Are you letting things into your energy field that are not for your highest good? And that can be people, that can be places that you go, that might be things that you consume, things that you bring into your body, the thoughts that you think. All of it is something you can become more aware of and upgrade. Upgrade what you're consuming, upgrade the places that you're going, upgrade the people that you're interacting with, upgrade the thoughts that you're thinking. And all of this is a way to change your experience. And so back to the original part of the original question, some teachers say that we're 100% responsible for the reality that we're projecting from within, and that feels then like an autoimmune disease. I kind of like the way you put that. And then others say that there's something nefarious. It's actually the same thing. We are responsible for what we're projecting. The world is a mirror of us. Think about it. If we're consuming and consuming even, the frequencies of the fear-based programming on television and radio and music and what we're listening to throughout the day, if we're consuming those things, we are embodying it. We are internalizing it even on a subconscious level. Even if we're not aware of it, we are, because those frequencies get into our field. And then what's going to happen? We're going to project those out energetically in our frequency, even though we're not aware of it. And then they're going to come back to us and they're going to give us those experiences. So you might, on one hand, you might be doing positive affirmations in your meditation in the morning. But then if you're watching like horror films or listening to some of the music that's out there is horrible, what you're listening to then is going to negate the positive stuff. If you are doing positive things, great, keep doing them. But then later in the day, if you're also doing something negative, of course, that's not going to bring you any positivity, because you're projecting out it's like you are a sum total. Your frequency is a sum total of everything that you're embodying. So you might be doing some great stuff. You might be doing some negative stuff. So where can you upgrade those negative things so that what you're projecting is going to be more positive? You are 100% responsible for what you are projecting. And yet you're not aware of it until you're aware of it. So become more aware, become more conscious. And then as you become more conscious and make those shifts to consume something better than what you were before, or to internalize better things, to be more intentional, then what you're experiencing outside of you is going to improve simultaneously. It just works that way. So when people say, yes, when teachers are acknowledging there are negative things out there, of course there are. And there are equally negative and positive things out there. What you're projecting is what you're going to bring back to yourself. So you get to ultimately be the one that chooses what your frequency is going to hold. And then you're giving yourself a much higher likelihood of receiving and experiencing positive things in your life. Okay, I'm going to end there. I feel like I could go on and on forever, but do come to my masterclass that I'm going to do on June 6th, and you can join me and we'll go even deeper, like way deeper into this topic. Please leave me a comment, give me a like, a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel if you haven't yet. And I love you. I appreciate you. Namaste.